I'm Dusty, joining me as always, our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. Ireland on the moon. You know I love stories like this. Every time it comes
exactly. Well, when we had a look at the notes for today's episode, I was like, moon space story, right up the top. I'm like, okay.
There he goes.
Right.
Yeah, Dusty's in there first. Edibus Labs, who are down in Grangegorman in Dublin, have developed a cooling system to be used on the moon, okay? I think this is fascinating because it draws inspiration from heat regulation mechanisms in an elephant's ears. I said that correctly, okay? You think about an elephant and how big their ears are, how they actually cool down is that a lot of the warm blood that's in the elephant's body will go to the ears. And because the ears are kind of so big and so thin, what happens is the blood goes through them and kind of automatically cools down. So they've done something like that. Now, obviously, it's not the same thing, but they have been inspired by that. And the result is that this Irish company has created a unit which is lighter than traditional cooling systems. The space guys like it, and they're going to use it in a deployment to the moon later this year. So bravo.
Okay. Which space guys?
Edibus Labs in Grangegorman developed the thing. They haven't actually said which mission. And I was kind of going, I wonder how many missions are going to the moon this year. There's like a dozen. There's like a dozen planned missions to the moon this year. It's ridiculous. All kinds of people from all over the world.
Everybody wants some of that moon rock.
Well, you know what? It's like science fiction movies of the 50s where everybody wants a land grab on the moon. Maybe it's starting to actually happen now.
You
know?
Yeah.
However, other big Irish news this week is our friends at the Young Scientists exhibition, which of course we love because we're always bowled over by the teenagers and the ideas they have. And not only ideas, but they actually go, and here's a working prototype. It's like, what? You're 15!
Yeah, very smart kids. And the standard just seems to be getting better and better every year. On a bit of sad news this week, BT, who have been the sponsor since 2000, they've been sponsoring it for 25 years. And what happened in the last few weeks, and this is subject to regulatory approval, but BT Ireland sold their wholesale and their enterprise business units to Speed Fibre Group, who you would know as the parent company for Magnet Plus. Right, and they have another operator they look after here as well. I think it's HEA Net. Let me just check that. Magna Plus and eNet. That's the parent company. So they're taking over that business, and unfortunately, there's going to be quite a lot of redundancies in Vodafone because that's a big chunk of their Irish business going. So I think there's in the region of 300 people being let go. Assuming this deal, of course, is completed. Always not, not over till it's over. But so as part of this wind down, BT has just said, look, we've had a good run, but our business has realigned in Ireland. We're not really a good fit for the Young Scientists anymore. We couldn't do it the way we want to, even if we wanted to now. So. Can you remember who the Young Scientists and Technology exhibition sponsor was before BT?
Now I never remember things, but I'm going to say Aer Lingus.
It was Aer Lingus for 33 years. Actually, for 37 years, I think was the first one.
Really?
First one in 63 or 67. Anyway,
Hang
over
on.
30 years.
So the Young Scientists exhibition has been going since the 60s, and in that time they've had two sponsors,
yeah.
Wow.
Aer Lingus and BT. So it just shows kind of cachet that the exhibition has around it. It really is a cornerstone of the tech calendar, but also so vital in generating that talent pipeline that we talk about all the time on the show, how to get people into STEM and keep them there.
If I'm not mistaken, the Collison brothers, who went on to set up Stripe, were Young Scientists.
Really?
I think they were. I think they were. And now I don't think if they won it, but they certainly did well on it, and it certainly gave them enough of a push to keep going. And look at what they did. And how many of those people who've been through the Young Scientists exhibition have gone on to do amazing things? I mean, it's countless. It's fantastic. We love it. And if you want to take a listen to some of the Young Scientists over the years, We usually do the show as the second week in January.
Yeah, first
So,
week in January every year without fail.
So if you're looking back over the podcast feed, you'll be able to listen to a few of those with Niall on the floor at the RDS. I wonder who'd be the next sponsor for the Young Scientist exhibition.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be Musk Industries.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Speaking, continuing, I should say, with Irish news this week, really kind of interesting studies out about Irish people, young Irish people, and social media.
Yeah, well, Safer Internet Day was this week. It was Wednesday. And this is sort of an annual awareness event where sort of educators, young people, parents basically get an update on the kind of threats facing young people online. And this year it was kind of, I don't want to say kicked off, but the organisers drew attention to an EU-wide report which found that a third of people aged 16 to 30, which is actually quite a wide cohort when you think about it.
Yeah, it's not kids. It's not kids. Yeah,
it's not kids. I mean, it's starting at those still formative years and going up to, kind of the low side of middle age, the higher side of
the
being
low
an
side
emerging
of
adult.
middle age at 30. You're a disgrace. Continue.
Yeah, so apparently some of the stats, and these are EU-wide again, so this isn't just particularly Ireland, which sort of makes things a little bit hairier when you think about it. So people are in general spending 2 hours a day on their social feeds, and yet is it helping? No. Apparently people are feeling more lonely and isolated than ever. And this is something that is being borne out both in the networks themselves, like Instagram and TikTok, who are, designed to be addictive and designed to have people just, consuming content all day long, candy floss stuff, really, that it doesn't have any sort of long-term benefit to your life or doesn't teach you anything or anything like that, just anything to keep you engaged on the platform at the expense of developing, real emotional connections with people. We've talked on the show, I think a couple of weeks ago, about the male loneliness epidemic, and I think it's probably a little bit reductive to say that it just applies to young men, because it's kind of just to put this in a bubble, just to explain what it is very briefly, that young men are going through a period where they're having less friends, they're not engaging in relationships, they're not dating, they're not marrying at the levels they're used to, they're not having kids, and basically they're withdrawing from society, as yourself and myself would have known it growing up, because there are other sort of low risk alternatives out there online. But of course, there's no human element to it, and once you get inside those bubbles, you end up in these sort of echo chambers online, where again you're talking to people that you have no you can't put a face to the name. You're just, perhaps interacting with a name on a screen who may or may not be human. And you've just got, people feeling incredibly down about themselves. And I'm sure that's splitting across both genders at the moment. I mean, when I was looking into it first, it was affecting boys and young men. I would not be surprised if it affected girls in the same way. So this is one of the things that Safer Internet Day this year has been looking at, just that issue of loneliness. Of course, Safer Internet Day, a wonderful event organised every year, coordinated this year by the Irish Safer Internet Centre, which is a collaboration between Hotline, the ISPCC, National Parents Council, and Webwise, an organisation that you might have heard about on the show quite a while as well. But of course, there is, I don't know, a spark of good news in there somewhere. I mean, the fact that we know this is an issue is illuminating and important in itself.
I think we've known this has been an issue for a long time, because as you said, we had the male loneliness epidemic, and that's years ago, all right? And it's going across the board now, and it's particularly prevalent in human beings of all ages and younger people as well, which is the scary thing. This You kind of just look like my counselor all of a sudden because no, seriously, like I'm kind of falling into that myself. All right, and it's just, and I did the weird thing about it is I know that this is happening. Okay. Because it's just, if I have like 5 minutes, I'll go, I'll just watch something on YouTube. I'll just watch shorts because I don't want to like get stuck into anything. All right. I will literally come out an hour and a half later of just looking at pure crap.
Yeah.
All right. That has absolutely no connection or origin. I'm just, for some reason this week, I'm getting all of the reasons why South Korea is a great country. Why? Did I mention it in a conversation? I have no idea. It's kind of interesting. Well, whatever. But I'm just going through that. And then I kind of put the phone away and I say to myself, I could have read a book.
Yeah.
Or I'm always saying that, I should get out and just go for a walk more for the joy of it. I don't know what joy there is in just walking, but anyways. Or meet somebody for a coffee. These are things that I could have done, but it's kind of like you just kind of get into that little bubble where you're lazy and you go, just whatever. Flick through. So I can see that happening to me, and I can see the reasons why it is making my life probably of a lower quality than what it could be if I didn't have a mobile phone. So anyway, that's my little thing over with. I think what's interesting about this whole thing is that we're recognizing it and people want to do something about it, but we're in a tricky situation now because of, all of the changes in the United States and the fact that all of the big social media companies are based there, and the prevailing attitude seems to be very much laissez-faire. Just, just let it be whatever it's going to be. Yeah. And they don't care. Whereas in the EU, it's the opposite, where they're kind of saying, well, do you know what? It's not good. We should do something about it, which seems like the sensible and adult kind of thing to do. But for Ireland, the problem is that all of these big American companies are regulated in the EU by Ireland. It's Commission the Man and the Data Protection Commissioner who are based here because Facebook and Apple and Meta and Twitter and whatever, they all have bases here. So it's kind of a big problem for a little country, I think. How it's going.
There is.
Anyways, that was interesting. That was a Safer Internet Week. Anyways, the other big news story of the week this week was in Paris, the AI Action Summit.
Yeah.
Now, this is quite deep on the AI side of things. What do you know about it?
Well, it is. I mean, the Action Summit is basically, it's an international conference where all the, one would hope the heads of government of, every country in the world gets together with industry and academia and just sort of says, okay, we have this technology. We have this, I don't even want to call it a generational technology, because that implies that it's stuck within one generation. It's most certainly not. It's technology that's going to change all our lives and society. What are we going to do about it? What's important? How do we approach the development of AI in a way that, exploits the business benefits, exploits the societal benefits, and works for us, people, instead of being used for potentially nefarious purposes like cybercrime or deepfakes or what have you. So it's basically, we have this technology. How do we manage it? What do we do about it? And what was interesting is, at the end of the conference, there was a statement issued, and the idea is that, everything culminates in a statement. Everybody signs off on it and says, yes, this is the plan. It doesn't really matter if it actually gets, carried out or whatever, but it's an
aspiration that everybody agrees on.
Yeah, it's an aspiration. This is where we want to go. And as it happened, a couple of quirky things happened. One of which was that US Vice President J.D. Vance gave a speech, and that man has incredible mascara. Whoever he paid to do his makeup that day, they did a job.
Okay. Aside from his makeup, then, what were the words?
So, he stayed on message for the Trump administration. He talked about how AI was super important, that it's important it be used, to make us all prosperous, that, we find ways that we can generate, that we can progress the technology while, respecting our right to free speech, right? So ultimately, he managed to drop in the greatest hits there of, we will do what we want for money. We will do what we want because that's our values. We can say whatever we want and you can't come back to us. And at the end, it culminated in this statement, and both the US and the UK refused to sign it because of this little bit of wording in there. So the final statement said that AI should be inclusive and sustainable. Okay? Inclusive, sustainable. Both words that are anathema to the Trump administration. They have been putting the screws to DEI since the election campaign began. This has been one of their big enemies.
They don't do inclusive, and they don't do sustainable.
Inclusive. They want Christian nationalism. They're not making any bones about it. And sustainable, I mean, Trump's energy policy is drill baby drill. They don't care about sustainable energy. They care about natural resources. They want you to go back to coal and gas and this sort of thing. Never mind the fact that the energy companies are like, yeah, we know this is, finite. We're investing in sustainables.
Yeah.
And we knew we had to for years. So this is what we're doing. I mean, you can say it. It's nice bit of rhetoric if it gets your base riled up. But look, we can do that bit, but we're also doing this bit over here. So don't harsh our buzz by saying all we're interested in is fossil fuels, because that's not true. However, at a time when things might seem like there's a lot of discord out there, it also creates an opportunity for some people to stand up and go, well, do you know what? If these guys over here are going to be jerks, we're actually over here and we're pretty cool. And we know that one of the problems AI is facing is infrastructure. I mean, the amount of energy AI is going to consume is fiercely challenging. I mean, we can't manage it over here. Our national grid isn't up to it. I mean, there needs to be serious investment and a whole rake of solutions introduced before we can actually have more data centers, let alone have them running ChatGPT queries all the time. But Emmanuel Macron basically stood up and went, do you know, like, we're nuclear. We got lots of energy. You want to set up you want to do AI here? We got it. We got you, bro.
France is big on nuclear power, and they've got more nuclear power than they need. So Macron said, okay, Graham, well, it's so funny, these people. I'm going to donate 1 gigawatt of nuclear power to data centers that he wants set up across France. So he's looking for like the 35 or 40 data centers to be set up across the country, and he's working with the people from the UAE on this particular project. I think in some ways Macron is right, because he says the EU does need to speed up. Everything that's happening in AI at the moment has been happening in the States, and then they got a big kick in the ass from DeepSeek, which is based in China. Where is Europe in this? Nowhere.
Here is the fun. Here is the fun, right? America saying, America saying cough. America saying, hey, we're the innovators over here, but through years of underfunding and lack of investment, their infrastructure, their energy infrastructure is really bad. I mean, particularly in Texas, where Oracle is spending big bucks on building a data center. Like, just letting private interests manage their energy infrastructure has been a disaster for all the states, right? So that's why, OpenAI and Oracle and SoftBank came up and said, we're doing this Stargate thing, $500 billion to invest in AI infrastructure. We're going to have all the power that you want. Whereas Europe are like, you want to do this now? Come over. We're good. You don't have to wait on us. We're ready. By the way, you're playing by the rules. So what do you want to do? Do you want to wait to innovate, or do you want to do it now and do it properly?
Well, there's definitely two very serious differences between the two sides. I also think is what's interesting happening, say, on the political side of things, quite interesting, where with Ukraine, and all of a sudden now there's peace talks about Ukraine between Russia and America. And Ukraine are going, hello.
Yeah.
And the EU are kind of going, well, hang on, we want to be involved as well. Anyway, that's politics and news, and I don't want to get into that. But anyway, the AI Action Summit in Paris was interesting. And as you say, the differences that it showed up between the various continents. Also making news this week, it's a time for Musk Corner. Oh my God, we'll have to fly to this because there's always too much. He's been trolling Sam Altman this week. What a brilliant headline this was.
Yeah, well, this is sort of related because this happened while Sam Altman was at the AI Action Summit. Musk made a bid for OpenAI for $97.4 billion. Said, I'll buy it. I'll take it off your hands. You're meant to be a non-profit. What are you doing trying to turn it into a for-profit entity? I'll take everything. I'll take the whole lot. However, and here's the thing, Altman isn't in the mood to sell. He's not interested in that. So he made a counter-offer of sorts. He said, no, we're not for sale, but I'll buy Twitter for $9.74 billion. Exactly 10% of what OpenAI is worth. I thought that was some class trolling. Backed up by an interview for Bloomberg where Altman said, he kind of clapped back at this a game of,
I know. I love this quote.
As we call it in rugby, shithousery. Altman sort of came back and he said, I feel for the guy. Probably his whole life is from a position of insecurity. I don't think he's like a happy person. Could you imagine how much that wound up?
Do you know, but now that you said that, I think I've seen a photograph of him being wound up by that, or maybe just looks like that all the time. Did you see the photographs of Musk in the Oval Office during the week?
My goodness.
It looked like Donald Trump had a bring the kids to work day, and it was the kid.
Yeah. Well, do you know what's so fascinating about that press conference? A couple of things. One, Musk coming out and basically saying, yeah, I probably do spread a bit of misinformation. I'm happy to be corrected on it. Check his timeline. I'll find. I think you'll find he doesn't do corrections.
No.
But the body language involved in that scene, right?
Yes.
Because Musk was standing, dominant position, media sort of kneeling and whatever to get the microphones and get everybody in, because this wasn't this was a press conference within the Oval Office, so not designed to be housing lots of people in seats asking upwards to the lectern questions. This is just an office, so everybody has to cram in and sit and find their spot. Musk is there with his young lad X, who was there playing around, doing his thing. By the way, that's a visual cue. I think we're going to see an awful lot of Bring Your Kid to Work Day during the Trump administration. Again, speaking to that Christian nationalism, let's get back to the family kind of thing.
Well, half of Trump's kids are involved in the administration anyway.
Not anymore. They've had enough. They will amplify what he says on X.
I think there's some of them still in there.
But anyway, so Musk's body language, he dominated that room.
Yeah.
Owned the room. Everybody was looking at him and his kid, who was doing kid things, which was very, very adorable. And then off to the right was Trump sitting there, chiming in occasionally, but really not liking this, small human going about the place spreading germs everywhere, because we know Trump is a germaphobe. So it's just the body language of that event and the fact that everything was on Elon in the room. And then occasionally Trump would say something. So there's a chink in the relationship right there. If this Doge thing doesn't work out the way Trump expects it to, we're going to see Mr. Musk being jettisoned fairly quickly.
Maybe it's working out exactly the way that he wants it to, because Doge seems to be dismantling a lot of agencies that are investigating Musk. But anyway, we'll leave it there.
Well, we'll get into that another time.
That's for another day. Listen, we're running out of time before we get into our interview. I had some other quick bits of news and just something interesting I found out during the week. Number one is, go to your Google map or your Apple map and go to the Gulf of Mexico and see what it says. They're saying that the change is due to the fact that the name has been changed officially in the United States. So they're taking account of that because that's law.
One coda I would say to that as an exercise, if you have a VPN,
Yeah.
and you can choose what country you're in,
Go into the States, yeah?
go into the States, see what it says. Go into Ireland, see what it says. Go into different places and see what it says and see if it's carried over, because I bet you it has not.
Well, we'll check that out. A couple of Irish bits of news. WorkHuman are setting up a new innovation centre in the old Central Bank on Dame Street, which is now the WeWork. So good luck to them on that. Squarespace, who do a lot of kind of websites and marketing and scheduling and stuff like that, are adding 120 jobs here in Ireland, which will bring it up to 400 people that they employ in the country. It's fantastic. If you're into engineering or product roles, get onto Squarespace because they are hiring. And the final thing I was going to say was, I was just lazy and I didn't have access to Microsoft Word, but I needed to know how many words were in a particular article. I went, that's what AI is for. That's
Right.
why we need 1 gigawatts of power coming from France from nuclear generators so I can count how many words are in an article, all right? Threw it into Claude. Claude gave me a fairly quickish answer, like within whatever, 10, 15 seconds, but it went, this is estimated. And it told me it was like 1,500 words estimated, all right? I put it into Gemini. Gemini said it was around 1,600 words. I threw it into Copilot. Copilot just said, error. I tried it 3 times and it was error, so it did nothing, all right? I put it into Perplexity. Perplexity said it had 700 words, which is half of what the other said, all right? So then I put it into DeepSeek. This is quite interesting because DeepSeek would show you how it's thinking. This is really annoying, right? Because DeepSeek went, okay, so I need to define what a word is. So let me just go through each word then and count it. And it literally went through each word. I was counting it up, 16, 17, 18. And it took ages to do. But the answer was 2,071 words. And it took its time. It took at least 10 minutes to count all the words.
But it showed its work.
All right? And then I went to I thought, that's weird. You're going from 700 in Perplexity to 1,500 in Claude and Gemini to 2,070 in DeepSeek, all completely different answers. And then I threw it into Microsoft Word instantly, 2,071. The exact same answer as DeepSeek gave me. So I think it's kind of, those one of the things where you go with ChatGPT, if you ask it how many R's are in the word strawberry, and it'll tell you it's 2, when it's actually 3. I think I may have discovered one of those things. So there's another thing. There's 2 things to try.
Wow.
It's go to Google Maps and have a look at the Gulf of Mexico, America, and also throw some word count tests into your favorite AI and then compare it to Microsoft Word. Right. Let's get into our interview this week. Niall, thanks as always for keeping us up to date.